Hey guys, it's Alex Martin from the Sidewalk Science Center at the Bradenton Riverwalk, and tonight we actually have a clear sky. As you can see, we have Venus and the moon right there. So we have Venus as the little dot up there that I can't point to, that one. But then the moon is right up here. So you can see just how close they are. And even yesterday, they were right beside each other, but it was so cloudy yesterday, obviously could not get a good picture of them because the clouds were just in the way. But tonight, I have right here, this is an 8-inch in diameter telescope. This is the one, if you have been to the Bradenton Riverwalk, to the Sidewalk Science Center, you have used this telescope. And you've used this to see Jupiter, you've used it to see Saturn, the moons of Jupiter, the rings of Saturn. And tonight, we are getting one of the last best looks at Venus and the moon. Just, that shows up so well in there. But I'm going to actually put this up to the telescope so that you can see what the moon and Venus look like. Now, I was just testing this with Venus. Venus is obviously very, very tiny compared to the moon up there. So it's not coming out as well as I would like, because it kind of just glares Venus because it's so small but a lot of light there. So the moon, you can see just fine. Venus, you'll sort of see if there's a shape to it, but you know, it's going to be a little bit glary. What Venus actually looks like is what the moon looks like right now, which is a crescent. If you remember, if you've been to the Sidewalk Science Center and used the telescope and looked at Venus, you'll probably remember that it was a D shape at one point, when it was at the highest point in its orbit around the sun relative to Earth. And now, as I said, it's dropping back toward the sun. So when it was at its highest point, it was at a 90-degree angle, or near a 90-degree angle between the Earth and the sun. So it appeared as a tiny half moon. But now it's coming back in front of the sun, so between Earth and the sun, which means that most of the light is starting to shine on the side of Venus that we can't see, similar to a new moon that we see here on Earth. You know, not a full moon, but when the moon is between the Earth and the sun. So I'm going to put this up to the telescope now, and I'm going to switch the camera around so you can see this. And here we go. You can already see this is the moon first. So there we have the moon as a great, great view. So there we have the moon, got some craters. In a few days, the part of the moon where all of the Apollo missions landed will be visible. So I'll see if I can't get a video of that in a few days. But we'll kind of look back up. You can see Venus and the moon up there. So how the moon looks like right now in this view is very similar to what Venus is going to look like in the telescope. So let me change, have a remote right here. Let me change this to being on Venus. You can see that the telescope actually points. It does this all by itself. I just have to type it into this remote. And I have it locked onto the moon so that it actually knows that it's, you know, sort of using the moon as a way to map out the sky. If the moon is right here at this time during this point of the year, that means everything else is right here, is basically what that means, is what it's doing. So let me make sure that Venus is inside the scope, because this can actually come out a little bit, and there it is. So remember, I said that Venus is very glary. I don't have the correct filter for Venus. I only have a standard filter for a telescope. But Venus, when you see it, is going to look very glary. But in reality, you can actually sort of look at the lens glare of it, and you'll see that it has that crescent shape. So there's that crescent shape to the lens glare, which means that is the shape that Venus currently is in the eyepiece. It's very difficult to actually pick that crescent shape up in the main body of Venus because it's so bright. So if you saw the eclipse back in 2017, if you were anywhere where there was a good crescent of the eclipse, that when the sunlight came through the shadows, came through like leaves in a tree or through thin slits in other like bushes and stuff, that the shadows on the ground were crescent shaped. And that was because so little light was coming out of the sun that it was coming in this specific crescent pattern. So it would shine on, I have a great video on my YouTube actually, it would shine on like the walls, and you see crescent slits of light coming through. And that happens when that happens, it's so cool. And it just shows you, you know, our perception of light is all based on this circle in the sky. Just imagine if we had this perpetual crescent sun up there. What the shadows would all look like, how that twilight effect would constantly be out there. So I was actually in Salem, Oregon for the solar eclipse. The next one is April 8th, 2024. So we are within 4 years of the next eclipse, and that's traveling from Mexico all the way up through the top of Canada, through like Nova Scotia. But some key areas that's going to be coming through, I believe it's going through Houston. I know it's going through, I think it's a town in Illinois it's passing through again. I can't remember the name right now. But then Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is probably going to be the hot spot for tourists because it's going right over top of Niagara Falls. So if you kind of follow that line, look at a map. I think it might be up on Instagram or Facebook somewhere. I can repost a picture of the eclipse path for 2024. But it's going to be another great solid line. Not traveling coast to coast, but a bunch of the country is going to still be able to see the eclipse. If you didn't see the 2017 solar eclipse, make sure you do this time, because and be in the center line. Being on the outlying edges where it doesn't go totally eclipsed, you know, that's pretty cool in itself. But being there when it's dark, when it's this, even right now, I mean, this looks a lot brighter than it actually is, but right now it's like pretty dark. I can see some stars, I can see Sirius over here, but you know, it's this perpetual twilight. When the eclipse goes over, the sky becomes this dark blue, and the wind stops, and all the animals and insects like stop chirping and stuff. It just gets really quiet and very cold. There's a definite temperature drop. It's just a very surreal thing to experience. So make sure you get your plans set for April 8th, 2024. And of course, these last few days, this last month that we have to spend with Venus, that you get your eyes up there on the sky and that you're looking up there, because the moon comes and goes every single month, but Venus, this will be the last time for the next, until about mid-May is when it drops. And then it won't reappear in the evening sky until next May. I think it's the end of next May is when it comes back into the evening sky. And don't forget, of course, that Jupiter and Saturn are returning to the night sky here in July. July 5th or so is when they're going to start coming out at about 9:15. But then the further into the year that we get, the better and more visible they will become. And they'll be, you know, high in the sky come end of August, September, October. They'll be perfect viewing throughout most of the night. So make sure that you're coming out to Sidewalk Science Center. Here in a few days, I'm going to be rolling out the plan to reopen Sidewalk Science Center amid the COVID pandemic. But we're shooting for, you know, through May, then taking a little break in June, and then hopefully in July, starting up Sidewalk Science Center and really getting things rolling again. So hope you guys are having a great week. If you want to see any more live pictures, just send me a message. I will get this telescope all set up, and we can take a look at everything. Again, I'm Alex Martin from the Sidewalk Science Center in Bradenton, Riverwalk. To all your endeavors, because we have a future to create. Have a great week.